Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very, very well. Welcome back to 3 Points Perspective. This is a show that we haven't done for a while. I said to Nina and Charlie, I said, I think we need to go live because things are moving so quickly that if we don't go live, by the time this comes out, something totally different could happen. So we're going to be doing a live on this one. We're going to be talking about Strasbourg. We're going to be talking about the situation with BlueCo, Marc Keller, Liam Rosenior. There is absolute carnage in the air. And by the way, chaos is not always a bad thing. Chelsea's a club that have thrived in chaos. But I don't necessarily think that we're, in the best state as it stands right now. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So big up to everyone watching. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nina, how are you? You were in Manchester on you went to New York and Chicago as well. You've been away. Yeah. And in the meantime, Chelsea's been like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, chaos unfolding, as you say. I feel like we have our annual crash out at this point. Like there's small ones throughout the year and the season, and then it gets to a certain point where it all just kind of explodes. And that's where we're at right now. We're sitting in all the debris of the explosion and just wondering, what on earth is happening now? But someone said to me the other day, I just wish Chelsea would stay out the headlines for a little bit. And we are just nowhere near a point where we can stay out the headlines because there is so much to talk about and there's so much going on. But I think you describe it well, Alex. It's a ticking time bomb situation. It's not anything as abrupt as I sort of first perceived it, because actually now with all the new information that's coming out and the, I suppose, facts we have mean that this has been brewing for a while, and this is ultimately what was always going to happen with how things were unfolding. So yeah, where to from here is the biggest question.
Hey, I mean, Charlie, we were at the protest last year, and it's almost a year later, and we're back on the unfortunate train. We're back on the train. I think that you could still dislike the owners, but I mean, it's just unavoidable. I was on the phone with my dad, and he was like, "Why do you keep talking about the owners?" And I was like, "Hello." He lives abroad, so he's not really in the space. He's not like up to date with all the politics of it. I was like, this is a lot worse than you think, man. But I mean, Charlie, compared to last season, what do you think the big difference is going into this situation?
I think more people are against the ownership now. I think more people are fully against it, whereas before I was people perhaps a little bit more on the fence, not as fully committed to it. I think now pretty much all Chelsea fans are on the same page that these guys need to either change or they have to go. And that's the big difference. I think, I'm sure you've seen a document. I think this looks a lot more better organized, with the greatest of respects to whoever organized the last one. I think, this one seems like it's more official, seems like it's more happening, more together. There should be more people there, and it feels like there's going to be a bit more of a coherent message, a bit more of a message put across in the right way, rather than just marching up and down swearing and stuff, which doesn't really do anything. So I think that's the big difference, is that pretty much all Chelsea fans are now on the side of these guys have got to go.
I mean, when you actually look at everything that's going on, it's a crazy, crazy situation. Obviously, Maresca's been sacked. That's triggered the fallout with the fan base. Although there's obviously a section of the fan base, including myself, to be fair, who never liked BlueCo or Clear Lake. But I mean, that's just been escalated. That there was always going to be a protest. It doesn't matter what was going on. There was always going to be a protest. I think it was just a matter of when, because if it wasn't about sacking Maresca, it would have been about not backing him in the window. It would have been about our form in the Premier League. It probably would have been about not reaching the Champions League next season, things like that. So I do think it was brewing in many ways, because, although not everybody agrees with it, one of the reasons that Maresca was getting support when we were playing Cardiff away was because it's kind of like, listen, it's us against them. We know they're not backing you. They're not giving you a centre back. When you look at the wingers and the depth and the strikers, I don't necessarily think that it's enough first team quality, although you could argue some of them could fit into like a squad. And that's the issue. That's the issue that we've got. And obviously last night I'm going through everything and then I'm seeing reports from Strasbourg. I mean, I didn't even know Strasbourg had some of these pages. Direct Racing, which is one of the sort of independent media sources for Strasbourg, says there's a total disagreement between President Keller and Eghbali over the hiring of Liam Rosenior. Keller could resign if he doesn't manage to convince BlueCo to keep Rosenior until the end of the season. What's so significant about this as well is that Keller's been at Strasbourg for about 15 years. He played for Strasbourg as well. So, this is a guy who has a real association with the club, and it's the equivalent. I don't know how good he was for them, so it's difficult for me to say, but it's basically a club legend, a club icon who's willing to walk away from his job of many, many years because honestly, it's getting to the stage where it's just unacceptable. And I think once you get
unworkable with these people, and that's what people are now slowly realizing one by one, whether it's the Strasbourg president, whether it's players, whether it's managers at Chelsea, whatever it is, one by one, these people are waking up and realizing it is impossible to work under Eghbali and these sporting directors because of their micromanagement, because of the way they want to run things, because they literally want you to coach the team and do nothing else, have no input in anything. As soon as you push for more, as soon as you achieve some sort of success and then you demand more to go to the next level, then you're discarded and the next one comes in. And this is just going to keep happening over and over again until they change the model. Because when Rosenior arrives, right, if he has any sort of success, or if he has any ambition, which I think he does, to try and push on to the next level, if he tries to do that at this club, they'll move him on and they'll bring the next guy in. Because as soon as someone demands a bit more, wants more to go to the next level, then it's over. They're discarded. They become public enemy number one, and then they leave the club. So this is just going to constantly keep happening until things change. And look, I suppose the only one thing with Rosenior is, compared to managers that have come in previously, your Pochettino's, your Marescas, is he has worked in the BlueCo model for 18 months. So what he's coming into at Chelsea and how they operate shouldn't be, it shouldn't surprise him what he walks into. Whereas it would have been explained to Poch, it would have been explained to Maresca, but until you actually get there, you don't really know the reality of it. He will know exactly what he's walking into in terms to how they operate. And yes, he is going to be a quote unquote yes man, a company man, whatever you want to call it. But if he does have any success, I think he's the sort of person that's got the ambition to want to achieve and push on and get challenging at the top end of the Premier League table. As soon as he asks for that or pushes for that, it's going to be met with resistance, and he'll go. And then the next guy will come in and the same thing will keep happening.
Yeah,
so that's why when people are talking about, Rosenior this, Rosenior that, he does X, Y, Z football, you're wasting your time, because it's not a football issue. It's not a manager issue. It's a hierarchical and a structural issue with the way that Chelsea are run and how the powers that be operate.
It has been from the start, though.
Yeah, it has. And that's why when Rosenior arrives, I'm not going to criticize him or get on his back once for anything. If we keep losing every week, no, I'm not, because it's not his fault. Because he took
the job. He doesn't have to take the job.
But let's not do this, bro. He's 41, right? He's managed Hull City and Derby County twice, and he's at Strasbourg. Are you telling me that you're not going to take that job? Also,
Charlie, mate, if I work as a tennis coach, if Djokovic offered me the job, I'd go, mate, I'll be honest with you. I don't think I'm quite up to it. I don't think I can help you.
You wouldn't. It's just bull. You wouldn't.
Mate, it's a little. It's different levels, man.
No, bro,
I'd be out of my depth.
You take
and
the
he's
job.
out of his depth.
It's a once in a lifetime opportunity which may never come again. So I'm not getting onto him for taking the job or anything like that. Plus, also, even if he wanted to not take the job, right, he would be saying no to his current employers. He is basically in an impossible situation where even if he doesn't want this, and he probably should stay at Strasbourg, and he knows that he should stay at Strasbourg in order to continue his development and become more refined as a coach and whatnot, he knows that he can't really say no, because if he says no, then he could well lose the Strasbourg job anyway.
Why would they sack him from Strasbourg? I mean, I get the point in theory. Like, I get it.
He can't say no.
Nina, what's your take on it? What's your take?
I just can't believe this is the manager we're talking about that's replacing Enzo Maresca, really, at Chelsea. And I said yesterday, I'm not going to pretend like I know Liam Rosenior's whole biography and I know everything he's done in his career and what he has to offer as a coach, but still, the CVs are there to speak, and every single time we get a short list for the next managerial appointment, the qualities and the criteria and the history just becomes smaller and smaller in terms of what they have there to offer with managers that we've appointed in the past under Abramovich. So that's what's worrying, and everyone talks about Enzo Maresca, and he was never, I said, in the molds of a Jose or a Thomas Tuchel in terms of how much affinity we had with him when he was coaching. So it's not so much that people are absolutely, in bits because Enzo Maresca himself is gone. But again, it's the replacement. It's how ambitious you are with who comes after. If you're not happy, if you've fallen out, then what do you do next? And I just think it's a bit uninspiring to see that these are the kind of managers that we're now looking at as replacements. And of course, he's going to be out of his depth. And of course, we have to now from here on look further above. I think for me, I've always spoken out about the ownership and my concerns with the hierarchy. I think that's why I was poaching until the very end, because I think I recognised even when Graham Potter was here, even when Pochettino was here, that actually the problems just stems from so much further above. All these decisions being made about recruiting these young players, managers just being dealt with these cards, coming into an environment where so much is changing, where we're wholesale making changes with our squads from one season into one season out, no continuity, nothing. And ultimately, every manager that comes in is going to face impossible jobs of working with what they have under this regime that doesn't give them any agency or autonomy. They can't even make one small request or demand on having a single player. And I said Enzo Maresca never quite demanded £100 million signings or high-profile signings. He just wanted 1 cent back, and he was shut down then and there. See, if you wanted to make it work and you wanted to let your manager work his magic, especially now knowing he's won 2 trophies, he's got you back into Champions League football, let him have that one player. It's really as simple as that. He wasn't flawless. We know that. Of course, he had made many mistakes along the way as well, but ultimately I think he almost felt resistance from up above, and he wasn't really felt like he was working with the ownership in itself. And that's just how it's going to be for any manager. So this is bigger than who's coming in next. It's bigger than who our next manager will be. This is about the fact that nothing is going to change up above right now, and it needs to for anything to work on the pitch or for long term, because what we all focused on and dreaming on about here is winning the Premier League at some point, right? That's Chelsea's next big goal. We want to be a team that lifts the Premier League trophy, and right now we look like we're undoing that.
I'll just take a challenge at this point.
Well, yeah, that'd be nice. That's what we thought we were coming into this season after the summer we had, but hey, now it's just smack back to reality. But you can never win a Premier League when things change so quickly. Come on, Chelsea, look at any other team that's done it in the past. Which team has had as much change as we had and gone on to win the title in a convincing way? Excluding Leicester in the last 10 years.
But that's why it doesn't. But that's why for me, I don't really pay any attention to who the manager is, because at the end of the day, the manager in the grand scheme of things here is actually irrelevant. And the way that the hierarchy look at the manager as someone who's disposable, as just a piece in the puzzle. The manager should be the most important person at the football club, right? And for this, and you notice straight away, right, with the wording and how they use it, they don't use manager, they use head coach. Because literally all they're there to do is coach the players that they've been given, and that's it. And even then, they haven't got full license to do what they want to do. You've got the situation with the medical staff, and you've got the situation with directors chipping in, players, you need to play XYZ player to try and raise their transfer value a bit. Do this rotation. All this rubbish, right? And you're undermined constantly. At this point, right, we may as well not bother having anyone in the dugout. And you might as well have Egbardi sat in there, and you manage the team and you do it, because you're you want to be involved in absolutely everything. You want to micromanage everything. You want to do all this stuff, Go in there and do it yourself. Why waste money hiring and firing managers all the time, every 12 to 18 months? Why don't you just go and sit in there and do it? Because at the end of the day, you just want to do what you want to do anyway. So you might as well just go and sit in there, because what's the point in just going through all these managers? Because they're going to fall out, because they're not going to agree with what you're doing. They don't want to work under a dictatorship. So you might as well just do it yourself and crack on. What's the point?
The values are so contradicting as well, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Like, everything we've sort of been told about what this long-term project looks like and where we're headed is so contradicting to the decisions that are being made, and the fact that we are literally moving in from one manager to another. Like, that does not build long-term stability, no matter how good or bad he is at times. Every long-term manager right now that's succeeding had those bad spells and is now in a good place with their team and is doing good things. You don't even let it get to that stage where you can even see that. At some point, a manager does warrant himself some big decisions because of, again, the past he has had. Maresca was quite happy to work with what he had. He got on with it. He was certainly a yes man when he came into it. But at some point, you look at this squad, you look at the reality, and there was lots of indications to say that Maresca wasn't always happy with everything he had at his disposal, wasn't always happy with the resources he had, but he cracked on with it. No top manager really, I say top manager, or the caliber of managers that we dream of having, would be happy working this way and in this environment. It's just simply not going to happen. So their values are so contradicting. How on earth are you talking about building long-term stability at a club, and our manager literally cannot survive past 18 months at all under this new regime? So it's like the contradicting values, of course, they're going to make the fans fall out with what you're doing here. It's so hard to believe anything, and they just keep digging this hole deeper and deeper, and you just find yourself in a bit of a feeling of despair. It's not going to change, and frankly, don't bother even trying to warm up to any manager. Don't even try and believing in their philosophy or their system. Don't even try and talk about if they're going to succeed here or not, because they're not. If things stay this way,
you can't succeed here. It's not possible. And if you do succeed, then and you want to push on for more like Maresca did, you're met with resistance and you leave because the club is not matching your ambitions. You know, every manager that comes here is a yes man to begin with. Of course they are, because that's the only type of managers that we can actually get, because any top class proven manager isn't going to be seen dead anywhere near this football club working under these conditions. So that's already what we are right now. We are no longer a big club. We're not a big club anymore. We now go for young players, right, who are either at smaller clubs, so they're not going to say no, or they're not playing at one of the bigger clubs, i.e. a Cole Palmer, for example. That's what we do. We cannot get any top-level football players to come to this club. And the ones that we did get, Enzo Fernandez, we were unchallenged, and Moises Caicedo, we almost fumbled it because we were so bad at negotiating. And the only reason we got him in the end was because he gave us his word. If he wasn't a man of his word, he would have gone to Liverpool, and we would have looked like we would have looked even more stupid than we already do. So we're not signing top footballers. We're not signing the best under 25 players in the world like they keep preaching to us that we are. And we are not getting top level managers. So basically what you've got is an owner in Egg Barley who has got no idea about football. You've got two sporting directors leading it's bad enough, right, having one shocking sporting director, but we've got two. So you've got Egg Barley who's clueless. You've got two sporting directors who are massively out of their depth, right? They've come from, with greatest respect, they come from Brighton and Monaco. Good football clubs, not elite level football clubs, nowhere near the caliber of Chelsea, nowhere near the pressure and all this sort of thing. Useless at what they're doing. Poor talent identification, poor signings, millions and millions of pounds wasted on players that are coming in and 6 to 12 months later they're gone, players that are coming in that are never going to kick a ball for this football club. And you wonder why no one wants to work. We're not a big club anymore, and it hurts to say that because we've had so much success, we've won everything, but we're not a big football club anymore. We don't sign the best players. We don't go for the best managers. We don't have the best in class in positions off the football pitch. Everything we do is mediocre and average. And that's what we've got. Average team, average to shit results.
I would argue that we are still a big club with Paul. We've just used that Paul for things that we don't need. We've used that Paul
What pull have we
for
got?
mediocre results. Like
What
there
players
are
have
some
we, what
players.
players have we
There are
signed?
some.
What
There are
players have
some
we
players.
signed over a top club that is a big name under this ownership?
I'm looking at your rest of ours. I'm looking at players like that, and I'm saying that we did beat the likes of Madrid, Barcelona to players like that. Even Andre Santos at the time was, there was competition for him, but we used our pool for the wrong reasons. We used our pool for players that ultimately were never going to be given a chance. Now, obviously, you're going to get your gems, you will get your Palmers, you will get your Estavals, and that's one category, because actually, in the grand scheme of things, we didn't even pay a lot for them. And then you've got, the ready-made players, which weren't even Clear Lake signings, really. I mean, I'd still consider them to be Bowley signings when he was relatively involved, like Caicedo, Fernandez, Cucurella, and they're the ones that end up starting every week. So at least, if I'm trying my best to find some sort of positive, there is some sort of there's some sort of experience in there. But even if you look at Enzo Fernandez, that season was his breakthrough season, winning the World Cup. Caicedo is still very, very young. It's difficult to pin all of your hopes on these players when they're so young. But just going back to Strasbourg, I think it's really important that people understand what's going on. There is a dispute between Marc Keller and BlueCo, because he disagrees with Liam Rosenior leaving the club mid-season. He doesn't think it's going to have good implications, and there's a good chance that he could resign if it does happen. Now, to give you an idea of how important Marc Keller is to Strasbourg, he's not just the chairman figurehead in Strasbourg terms. He's basically the architect of the modern club. He's been president since 2012, when the club was in big trouble, and he stayed on as president after the BlueCo deal, and he's been leading for a long, long time. Since he's been involved, Strasbourg have basically been doing pretty well. Like, they've got better and better. It's going to be difficult to find someone else that knows the club like Keller does, and I also think that the implications, I mean, it's the equivalent of losing, I don't know, somebody else that's worked here for a long time that actually knows the club, right? We're talking about pre-BlueCo. It's like still having people from the Abramovich regime involved in Chelsea. You may have complained at the time about Marina Granovskaya or Bruce Buck or whoever these guys are, but actually, in the grand scheme of things right now, you would all take those people at Chelsea, and that's what Marc Keller is to Strasbourg, and he has their best interests at heart. I do believe that, he actually believes in that, and I believe that Chelsea in a lot of ways have been beneficial to Strasbourg. They've signed better players. They've done pretty well in the league. They wouldn't have had the likes of Petrovic. They wouldn't have had the likes of Santos.
No, of course.
Kendry Pires. There's some positives there, but I wouldn't want to be a feeder club if I knew at any time my manager is going to be pinched with no good reason whatsoever, apart from the fact that he's the only one that will actually
because we can't get anyone else. And when they say, "Oh, he's the lead," and he's the leading candidate and whatnot, there are no other candidates. There's none, because the only manager we can go and get is from a club that we own. And we have to go and take their manager mid-season. So if you're telling me, right, that your project is to go and take your managers, is going to take your feeder club's manager halfway through a season, your project isn't working. Your project is an abject failure. What sort of nonsense is this, right? That Chelsea in 2026 are waiting for Strasbourg to find another manager in order for them to get their next manager. What are we doing here? Like, what is going on here? It's honestly mental. Not only are BlueCo ruining Chelsea, they're also ruining Strasbourg. Like, I know Strasbourg have had opportunities.
Well, the difference, Charlie, is that Strasbourg have had their identity is being ripped out. But in football terms, we can all agree they're doing okay. We have been torn to the ground. I mean, whatever's below the mud, that is where we are, mate. I remember when Poch got sacked, I said to everyone, we are done. Like, this is a disgrace, this project. And I was done last year. I was done. And then even with self-sabotage, we're able to bring 2 trophies and Champions League football to this club. And I go, bloody hell, I'm not a fan of what I'm seeing. I'm still to this day not a fan of Maresca's style of play, but you think I'm going to go against the manager who won me 2 trophies and got Club World Cup when we self-sabotaged in January, when we didn't give him a centre-back, when we had Robert Sanchez last season. We all know what he was like then. You know, when we had some of the guys that we had. And now, I mean, I was watching Johnny last night. I was watching it because how could you not? Honestly, I was intrigued to see what he was going to say. The man's been on holiday to Venice. I said, you know what, I'm interested. And he was talking about the wages. We went from Tuchel, what was it, 10 million a year. Potter, around 8 million. Enzo, 4 million. Rosenior, 2 million a season. It's a downgrade after a downgrade after a downgrade. You know, when we were speaking about some of the signings that we brought in under Bowley, your Sterlings, you have your Fofanas, people on big wages, and we say, what is going on with those wages? What's going to happen when they leave? Hopefully, we're going to reinvest that. We were talking about Osimhen. We're talking about all of these guys. 325K a week. I guarantee it will not be reinvested. Not one penny of that money will be going back into Chelsea, because ultimately, you know, that money in itself, I mean, that's over 20 million a season. That's going in Bowley's pocket. That's 20 million a season for the chairman.
But you know what's mad, right? Is that we could have had a top level manager at this football club. We could have had Luis Enrique. We could have had Nagelsmann. We could have had these guys, and they looked at it and they were like, "No,
Nah.
I don't want that. I don't want that, because I'm not prepared to work under these people in these conditions." You only have to look at what Enrique said about the Chelsea thing. You only have to look up what Nagelsmann's agent or Nagelsmann himself said about the Chelsea thing. You only have to look at what Lampard said about the ownership and how things are run when he came back in 2023. So people saying that top managers want this job. No, they don't. Top managers do not want this job. We need to wake up. Top managers don't want this job. It's as simple as that. They honestly don't. Because the only people we're going for now are up and coming managers who will say yes to this job because it's a huge step up in their career, because it will be the biggest club that they've managed, because it will be the biggest thing they've ever done in their careers. No top manager wants to come to Chelsea right now. And anyone that believes otherwise has got their head buried so far in the sand that they can't see what's going on. No top manager wants it. And why do you think we're not going for top managers? Why do you think we're not going for top managers? Because this ownership know that a top manager will reject them and won't work under them. It is that simple. That is why we do not go for top managers.
I mean, Nina, what's your take on the job as a whole? Obviously, we know it's a head coach role, but I remember when Maresca was brought in. I remember when Poch was brought in. I remember when Potter was brought in. Like, we were always told that they would have an input in the transfers. We knew that they wouldn't have full control, but we were always told that, okay, listen, we want to build around you. This is a long-term project. You're going to have a say. And then we see consistently, time and time again, that not being the case. And now it's come out, you know, with our medical department, that we don't even have control of some of the substitutions and some of the players that can start. So, I mean, when you look at those parameters, how would you actually describe the role? Because I think it just makes the job even harder than it would have been, even with complete freedom. And that's saying something, because I look at Man United and Amorim just does what he wants, and they still back him. At Chelsea, you can't even manage the football side of things, and somebody pokes their head in.
No, of course not. And all those things that you just listed there make it impossible for anyone to function and live a good life and work happily in those conditions. Excuse me. And I think, you know, with Chelsea I spoke about this at the very start when the new regime sort of came into play, that we got rid of so many people and staff at the club that have really been there for a while and knew exactly what the club stood for. And I guess that's exactly what they wanted, right? To wipe out everything from the Abramovich era and build something of their own. So they wanted nothing of that. And I guess in a way you changed so much. You brought in so many new characters, so many new people as well, who pretty much had to learn on the job, or like a lot of the players we recruited. But there's just no way for the system to function and flourish if so many things are just so not aligning with each other. And I think that it really is the case. I think you talk about how the manager is influenced by the medical department with which players he can play. You know, Maresca maybe did want to play Cole Palmer for more than 65 minutes the other day and more than 70 the previous game, and yet he couldn't do that. Or if you're talking about players who he needs to play because they need to boost their transfer value or maintain their transfer value or whatever. So he sat there setting up a game tactically against opposition, and he's also, with that in mind, trying to appease all of these other factors and all of these other I guess goals he has to fulfill to keep everyone happy. Again, it's just not going to work. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to work. And I think it's just even more embarrassing for us. And I think what was quite hurtful to me as a Chelsea fan was like reading Pep Guardiola's comments about the Enzo Maresca situation and how, you know, he obviously praised him that he's a nice guy, whatever. It's a loss in itself. But just the way he spoke out about how he feels so supported and backed up by his club, how much he feels happy working there, because Pep has, we all know, so much influence at Manchester City. He's such a top guy. He's obviously worked his way, and Man City pretty much hit the lottery with that appointment. However, it's about what he's been building with the club over the years. It's about that trust. It's about that, I guess, like just that belief that Pep absolutely can have the autonomy that he does have, and just that support. No manager's ever going to speak out about our ownership and our hierarchy that same way. We simply know it. And I guess Maresca had enough. Obviously, now we know the comment after the Everton game was clearly something brewing for a while. Like, imagine how much you have to have your buttons pushed for you to come out and say something like that you've had the worst 48 hours of the club, that things aren't going well, and to look visibly annoyed as well. And now we obviously know he stormed away after the Bournemouth game, and that was pretty much like he knew he was out. So just for me, the parallel between the breakdown of relations between a manager and the hierarchy and how it was literally last year, because Pochettino left in May, well, now the previous year, because obviously we're in the new year, but guys, that's literally, it was like yesterday, and it's the same pattern. So you talk about how much can you really fall out with your ownership in 18 months. Clearly, like, this is something that happens as soon as you get here, and it's just like a ticking time bomb, like you say. I just can't imagine what healthy relationship will be formed here. Liam Rosenior will probably resent them as well at some point and say, why did you do this to me? I was happy at Strasbourg, doing bits there, getting to know the club, and now you brought me into here to fix your turmoil and your craziness. It's not going to happen.
You look at any job, right? And any industry, really, you get hired for peanuts, and let's just imagine you do know that the person before you was paid more, the person before that was paid more than that person, the person before that was paid more, and they're also more qualified than you. So you're thinking, okay, what kind of direction is this place going in, number one? But I'm happy for the opportunity. I need the opportunity. And just to reply to Pablo, thank you for the super chat. He says, if these dudes are following Brighton's model, we better start saying goodbye to the likes of Palmer, Moy, Enzo, Cucurella, or even James, because in their eyes, they're $500 million. They'll play more youths to rise their values. And this goes back to the substitutions as well. I mean, Charlie, when we drew against Bournemouth, I remember looking at some of the subs and saying, it's absolutely baffling. I saw a comment saying, I can't find it now, from Luke saying, worth noting, medical departments will veto all managers in all clubs. That isn't a shock thing. But it is a shock, because if you look at other clubs, a good example would be, I don't know if you've seen the All or Nothing documentary when Mourinho was at Tottenham. When Kane got injured, he started playing Son up top. But then, there was a lot of sort of tension between Mourinho and the physio. But ultimately, they negotiated, right? They negotiated, and he was like, listen, if I can't play these guys, how am I going to build this team? And I don't think it's a case of, listen, screw the players, I just need results. It's not like that. But it's like, listen, you want this guy to play 45 minutes. Can I play him for 70? A couple of days before, he was saying Cole could play 90 minutes, and then he takes him off early.
Yeah, and then both the games. Yeah, both the games. He said that before the Villa game, that Palmer was ready to play 90, and then against Villa and Bournemouth, he was subbed off in the second half in both games, and fans weren't happy about that. And rightly so to a certain extent. But to blame the manager for that, when you then subsequently see what's come out and you've got the full picture, now some of this stuff is starting to make sense. Now some of the team selections, some of the rotations are maybe starting to make sense because of the interference from above, because of pressure from above on selecting certain players, on making certain substitutions, on playing certain players to raise their transfer value. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Do you know how ridiculous that is for anyone above the manager to be suggesting that sort of thing? Imagine a roles reversed situation if the manager's going into the owner's office or into the sporting director's office and telling them how to scout players and telling them how to do X, Y, Z. That's not going to go down very well, is it? So why are people with zero experience of how to manage a football team and zero experience of how anything works in regards to playing football, why do they think? Why have they got the audacity to go down and question the manager, question the person that they employed to do the job that they want them to do? Owners, right? Ownership should be out of sight, out of mind. Ownership should never be in the headlines. This ownership are in the headlines every single day, every single week, month by month, year after year. These guys are in the headlines constantly. You should be out of sight, out of mind. You should be backing your manager. You should be allowing an elite level sporting director to lead the project, and you should be allowing the manager to do everything or in regards to coaching the team and getting the best out of the team on a football pitch. People need to stay in their lanes. Why is Egg Barley trying to get into it, trying to get involved in football matters? Bro, you do business. That's your situation. You take care of that. Instead of trying to control things on the football pitch, why don't you get us a shirt sponsor? Why don't you get us that we're looking for 3 or 4 years now and haven't got one, instead of meddling in footballing matters? Why are we doing this? You know, what is the point? Owners should not be in the spotlight. They shouldn't.
You know, interesting comment by Rohit. Please don't spam in the chat, guys, but I'll read it anyway. He says, you guys cashing the crisis by YouTube revenue, but will you stop going to the bridge? This is something we were speaking about before the stream.
Such a stupid thing.
People are saying, don't go to the bridge, don't give me your money. I'm a season ticket holder.
Bro, the money's already gone.
Money's already been there.
People have got this fantasy idea, right, that that match-going fans will stop going to games and the stadium will be empty for matches. You do realise, right? A, season ticket holders already paid for their tickets, so the money's there. It doesn't make any difference. And other people will buy those tickets. Chelsea will always be sold out or close to sold out because it is a big football club, even though it doesn't feel like it is right now. It is a big club to a certain extent. And there are players that people want to watch, and people want to go to Stamford Bridge and people want to watch it. So whether it's regular match-going fans in those seats or whether it's tourists or other people, the stadium will always be full or close to full. So this fantasy that people have got that the stadium will be empty and people need to stop going and people aren't going to go and buy stuff in the club shop and people aren't going to do X, Y, Z. Like, it's not going to happen. Protest in terms of things like you see other clubs doing it. Don't go in. Don't enter the stadium for the first 15 minutes or whatever, in terms of stay in the concourse and then after the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you then walk in. We've seen that other clubs doing that. This sort of empty stadium thing is this fantasy that so many people have got in their minds when they don't actually understand the reality.
I mean, it is different for members. What I will say is that if you still want to go to, I mean, if we're talking about the money, the best thing you can do in this scenario, if you feel that strongly about it, and I totally empathize, is just buy tickets from friends who have already paid for it. You know, use other people's season tickets, because if you're putting things on the exchange, etc., I don't know if I presume you know about this, guys, but
yeah,
you know, people will put a ticket on the exchange. I know Steve, who likes to interrupt our interview, Steve from Andover. And
Island Steve
said, yeah, he said to me, he said, Alex, you know, I stuck a ticket on the exchange. I stuck a couple of tickets on there. I went, okay. One of them was a big game. One of them wasn't such a big game. He sits in corporate. They're quite nice seats, right? He pays good money for them. He's changed corporate because they raised the prices last season or this season. And he said, like, I think the ticket was worth about, let's just say 200 quid or something, 250 quid. So a pretty expensive seat. And he said, I sold it. And then I sat with the guy because I was in another seat because he had a few. And I said, how much did you pay? Paid more than double. More than double. So what happened is Steve sells it on the exchange. Chelsea then resell it, considering they've already sold it for double. And they don't even let you take the money back out of your account. So that credit isn't even money. It's credit that can only be spent on Chelsea, which means they'll never lose a penny once you spend money on the club. There's no refunds. And yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to do, guys, if you're looking at the financial side, then just don't go via the exchange. You know, there's plenty of people on Twitter. I know, Charlie, you get tickets from people all the time. I've had it. Nina, I presume you get spares as well and stuff like that. That's how you do it. You know, if that's how you feel about it, then just get tickets from other people, and that's one way of having an impact. But I mean, Nina, what do you think about this being a member? Because obviously I can't really speak for that. Yeah.
I mean, the points that people make about not going to a game is so that there's empty seats, right? So that there's nobody there in attendance watching the game. And that's more powerful than people saying, oh, don't pay the club, don't buy merchandise, because people still will. That's never going to change. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, I think the point, Charlie, you were making is if we don't go, someone else will. You know, someone from across the world who's paid £550 for that same ticket will be in attendance at that game. I think there is something very powerful there being empty seats at games. Yes, certainly. I'm all for doing something to speak out against something that you don't believe in and is clearly damaging something that you have been paying lots of money for, something that you've grown up loving. Because Chelsea to us is, let's be real, it's more than a club. Those who don't watch football probably won't understand, but it's more than a club. This is the way we live. We base, us three particularly, base our whole lives and schedules around going to Chelsea, supporting Chelsea, creating Chelsea content, and, you know, pretty much that is our whole and entire existence, right? So this is a massive thing for us. And I think, again, in order to change something, because us fans, we're not voiceless, right? I think that's one thing that we have to say. There's no point of saying, oh, there's no point of doing that because it's not going to do anything. Like, that's just not, like, no good thing or no good protest or no good, vocalized problem. It is succeeding if you say, oh, nothing's going to happen and nothing's going to change. So we must do something. That's absolutely for sure. I do think that as fans, we do absolutely have a voice. I think most people bring up the Super League protests and the fact that, you know, Petr Cech was out there and he was very vocal and he honestly said, you know, what is happening here? And you have these figures that, you know, will also speak out and there can be things done. So I don't believe in doing nothing at all and just not going to the game. I think it needs to be more powerful than just not going to a game, right?
The thing is, though, like the issue with the protest is, right, the last time we did it, it wasn't particularly good, but secondly as well,
it wasn't well organized.
I think it was good because I was there, Charlie, and I don't think
it wasn't that good.
Small number of people turned up at different times. There wasn't quite a lot of clarity around where it was.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't organized very well. I don't think it was very. You can't call it a professional protest, but I felt like the message was not great in terms of the way that it was put across in terms of it being taken seriously and whatnot. But the biggest problem is, right, no issue of doing a protest. Fans have absolutely got their right to voice their displeasure and should voice their displeasure at what's happening right now. The problem is that protest happened back in February. The next one is in a couple of weeks' time, middle of January. That is almost a year between it. You cannot just do a protest, wait a year, do another one. You have to keep the pressure up. You have to keep sending the message, whether it's once a month, whether it's every couple of weeks. You can't just do a protest, forget about it for a year, and then go and do another one. You have to do it week after week after week. You have to keep slamming that message home, because doing something once, waiting a year, and then doing it again is not doing anything.
I think the reality is the situation, guys, is now a lot more people understand where we're at. I think a lot of people like myself, I think I always questioned up above before I looked at the managers in recent years. And that's why maybe I was shamelessly poaching all of them in until the very end, because I recognised that the problem is a lot bigger than the manager. But I think now what we have to realise is that you look at the protest last year in, was it February or March? Was it
February? I think it was
like Southampton, wasn't it? After that, we went on to win 2 trophies and we got back into the Champions League. Okay, we had some of the best highs, let's be real, because the Club World Cup win over PSG was one of the biggest highs we've had under the new regime, if not the biggest, in terms of the game, the opposition performance, etc. The Conference League, we got the job done. The Champions League, we got the job done, got back in there. So we had some good highs, right? But I think where we are right now is we have to realise we will still and probably will have those highs, maybe in a cup tournament, maybe in a different capacity. What we have to realize is there's not going to be a long-term stable Chelsea from here on that goes on to be consistent over the next 4 seasons and goes and wins the league after that, right? We have to recognize that we will have short spells of excitement and happiness with winning, perhaps, like I said, a domestic trophy in the next year, maybe, who knows.
Well, they don't care about the Carabao Cup anyway, so there won't be that one.
Well, okay, fine, yeah, then the other one, but
they don't care about that.
We're not challenging.
They don't care. Carabao, that I'm sure you've seen it. That made me so annoyed. Right? They're talking about the Carabao briefing that the Carabao Cup's not a priority trophy this year. If they win it, great. But if they get knocked out by Arsenal, it's not the end of the world. I'm thinking, what are we doing here? It's a domestic trophy, which you've not won a domestic trophy.
Hey, you know what's crazy, Charlie?
10 years. And you know what as well? Not won a domestic trophy in nearly 10 years. We don't care if we go out against our London rivals, Arsenal, and they could get a trophy. And you're charging £55 for a Carabao Cup semi-final match that you don't even care about.
You know what's mad though is if we'd won the Carabao Cup in previous years, or if we win it this year, they would milk it. They would milk it.
No, they'd be patting themselves on the back.
The marketing team would be all over that.
All over it, mate.
We'd see it. We'd see it every week. We'd see like replays of the goals in the final.
And they'd be patting themselves on the back for it.
2 years in a row winning under BlueCo, all of that, man. We'd see it all. Big up to everyone as well, guys. If you are in the building, thanks for watching. We've got over 1,200 people on all platforms, over 500 on YouTube. If you haven't smashed the like button, guys, then please do. We should have at least sort of 200-300 likes. We haven't even reached 150 yet. So
come on, guys, smash the like button. If you want something to change at Chelsea, there you go. Now you want to do something.
Well, I mean, listen, if you enjoy the show, if you want us to keep running shows like this, then we'll do it. But you know, if people don't enjoy it, then obviously we probably won't. But yeah, thanks for support anyway. I mean, I honestly, guys, this is ridiculous. It's been such a long time since we've done a 3 points perspective. We've had so many different conversations on here. I remember we've done transfer shows. We've spoken about. We've done sort of game reviews, etc. But as I was saying to Nina yesterday, it's like we keep going back, whether it's 10 months later or maybe another 2 months from now or whatever it is. Like it all comes back to the same thing, you know, and a problem is a problem. And you can look at all the things. I mean, I was speaking to Don yesterday. And I love Don and I respect Don's opinion. I think he really knows football. I've sat with Don for a number of games and he can be very analytical with this stuff. And he was saying there's layers to this. And he was talking about why Maresca still needs to be criticized in certain ways and how he wasn't playing players in the right way. And I was like, it took him 33 minutes before he spoke about the ownership. And I was like, I'm glad you've said it because he did say like I don't agree with the ownership. I was like, this is not the time to be breaking down Garnacho and his dribbling abilities. This is not the time to be speaking about inverting fullbacks. We are past that. We're past that point. You know, there's no point trying to speak about football when ultimately, unfortunately, the politics of ownership and everything that comes around it is taking over. You think of politics. I don't know if you two vote. I'm not going to ask. But you think nobody actually wants to be involved in politics. They get involved in politics because they're not happy. You know, I would say I'm moderately into it. Like, but do I read the paper or whatever it is? Do I read these articles and go, oh, I love what's going on here? Like, who has ever been like that? And it's the same at Chelsea. Like the reason that people are getting involved, the reason that we're having these conversations, the reason that the 17th of February at 1 p.m. outside the Britannia Gate is happening is not because people are enjoying what they're seeing. It's because of the polar opposite. And the more this happens, the more divide. Well, actually, I'd say the more united Chelsea fans will become, because ultimately we all have a common goal. We want to see our team succeed. But yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be going back to the same conversation. Also, like, I don't know if you guys ever watch any United content. I personally don't, but every now and again, especially in recent weeks, I've tuned in just to see what they're saying, because I'm like, you say the same thing every week. It's the ownership. It's this. It's that. It's the way it be. It's boring. It's boring. Nobody got involved in creating Chelsea content to talk about the same thing every week. You want to talk about the football, and here we are talking about the ins and outs of
anyway, Alex, don't we?
Well, sorry, football's irrelevant now, really.
Do as well, Alex. It gets to a certain point where we bring up the same points, which we know are all there. We get distracted with certain nice things that happen on the pitch, or a good team will beat, but ultimately the reality is still the same. Do you know what I mean? Like, the fact that every single year we say we're unsure about this model, we're unsure about this regime, we're unsure about the long-term goal here, and it's the fact that we're still unsure at the end of the season, right?
Hang on a sec. Is Doobs organising the protest?
No.
No,
I don't think he is. I don't think he's organised. He's promoted it, but I don't think he's organising it. No, it's just organised.
Who is it, Steve? Who is it? Because
it's literally a group of fans that don't really have any social media presence at all or anything. I just think it's just some Chelsea fans. I don't think anyone really knows.
I know Doob's dad used to play for Chelsea.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So I was wondering if that's the case.
But I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think he's personally organising it.
Oh God! Do you know what the thing is? Like, you were speaking about the last protest, Charlie. I have to say I disagree with you on like the impact of that. I think that protest had an impact. I really do. You look at the traction that it got. I think the signs were important. I think the statements were important. That there was a lot of things that you can take from that protest. Now, the difference between that protest before was there was 3 layers to it. And it was BlueCo out, change the model, and win Stanley and Stewart out. And now I think that we're sort of in agreement about specifically Eghbali and Clearlake. Like, everybody understands. Like, I'm not sitting here saying you have to be a fan of Bowley. Nobody's saying that.
There's nothing to do with this. Bowley's not part of Clearlake.
Nobody is saying that you have to like Bowley. But you would have to be slightly silly to not appreciate that he would be better than Clearlake. Now, this is not me trying to convince anyone to be Bowley in, right? But what I am telling you is that I watch the baseball. I actually enjoy watching it. I've been to a couple of games. Like, I think it's quite, it's pretty chilled out sport compared to football. It's quite nice in that sense. And I've seen the success that the Dodgers have had. Like, Bowley, you remember when he first come in, Koulibaly, Sterling, all these players, big contracts.
Yeah,
they handed out one of the biggest contracts, if not the biggest contract in sport history for Shohei Ohtani. Do you know what they did, Charlie? They've signed him on a ridiculously long
10
deal.
years, isn't it?
It's like a 10-year deal, but the way they've done it so they can pay it off is, I think it works out about 60 million a season, but he's only taken a small percentage of that until the end of his contract, when he gets a big payout, and that's when they can afford it. And you look at what they're doing there. They're pushing the boundaries of how can we get a little bit more out of this team. Now, I'm not saying Bowley's solely responsible for that. I'm certainly not. But what I am saying is that there's proof in the pudding from when he first came in and from what he's doing at the Dodgers that the guy is willing to pay money. Okay, what do you get with money? You get good players, you get good infrastructure, you get good coaches.
But that's the thing, though, isn't it? Like, this is what people don't realize. Like, you're not going to get top footballers that are going to move the needle and make this team better unless you pay money, and we're not prepared to pay money. It's that simple. Why do you think we're targeting all these young players? Because they don't ask for big wages. Like, you're never going to sign top footballers for Chelsea that move the needle, that make the difference, because this ownership, Eghbali, whoever it is, they are not prepared to pay the money. No one cares about the wage bill being reduced if you aren't getting results on the pitch. No one gives a fuck about that. You're not going to put your reduced wage bill in the trophy cabinet. No one cares that you're reducing the wage bill. The most important thing are the results on the pitch. What are you doing to make this team better and win this team trophies and get this team challenging for and eventually winning a Premier League title? What are you doing to get us closer to that? You're not doing anything right now. We are no closer than we were 4 years ago. In May, it will be 4 years of this ownership. And we are no closer to even challenging for a Premier League title than we were 4 years ago. So we have essentially, what are we doing? Wasted 4 years, basically, of standing still at best and doing absolutely nothing. Now, you don't have to like Bowley, as you said, right? But our only hope right now, at least short term anyway, is for Bowley to try and find some money, get some investors together and buy out those Clear Lake shares and he be the main guy. And you know full well that Bowley won't be involved in the day-to-day running of the football club. He will sit back and he will appoint an elite level sporting director to lead the project. And that is what we need. And so whilst he might not be perfect, whilst he might not be all these other things, he's a damn sight better than what we've got right now.
Thanks for the super chat, Brian. They can sell and should sell. Let's go. I mean, when we look at Chelsea, it is under a BlueCo, and that's what people are saying, isn't it? Is that you can't sell Chelsea, but you can sell BlueCo. So if you buy BlueCo, you don't just get Chelsea, you get Strasbourg as well. And that's what people are saying you can do. I mean, internally, we know that they can buy each other out as well. Bowley doesn't have enough money to buy out Clear Lake. And to be honest, I don't see why Clear Lake would invest more when this project is failing. It doesn't make any sense. Bowley tried to go to Saudi a year and a half ago, whatever it was, to try and get investors to buy out Clear Lake. That never happened. So he just needs to raise the funds for it to happen. I mean, my opinion is this, guys. I don't see many people that are going to be willing to spend what Clear Lake are looking for in order to sell the club. That's one of my frustrations here, because I believe they can sell. I'm in agreement with that. I believe that they can sell. But I say, what price? You know, I could be open to selling something. Many people put their house on the market, but then
everything's got a
you
price.
offer them less than they want, and they won't do it.
Everything's got a price, hasn't it? But yeah, look, these guys aren't going to sell up. These guys aren't changing the model. These guys aren't going anywhere. And like, the thing is, right, is that this is actually so salvageable. Like, this is repairable. You just need to sign a few top quality players. It's not like this is not fixable. They just don't want to fix it. The problem is, right, is that they think that this idea that they're implementing is how you win and how you have success. And the arrogance to come in and think that you can do something that no other club has ever done in terms of a way of recruiting, in terms of a model, and you're going to win and you're going to be successful, when no club has ever done that
with a muddled strategy as well. And
they're not. And they don't. And the thing is as well, like, I don't even know if they fully believe in their own strategy.
I don't think they do, because they back and forth and make decisions that contradict their own values.
They preach about long-term head coaches from day one. They're on their 5th or 6th manager already in less than 4 years. Like, what they're saying and what they're doing are not adding up. You can talk about wanting to win. You can talk about all these things. What are you doing to try and achieve that? And their words and their actions do not match up.
I mean, Nina, what's your take on this from Joe? He says someone needs to approach a top firm to create a study on how a club's valuation is affected by winning major honours. Maybe then they can change the model. I mean, Inter Milan is a good example now of private equity having some success. But that's because, if I'm not wrong, the people that owned the club beforehand couldn't pay their shareholders, or they couldn't pay the interest off. And so they got bought out, they got taken over. It's a bit like, who did we take the loans from, guys? Who did we take the loans from? Oh, I'm trying to remember. We took out hundreds of millions in loans from an American bank or something like that.
Oh, you were telling me about this, by the way.
Oh, I can't remember it off the top of my head. Please let me know in the chat. Oh. Basically, Chelsea took out hundreds of millions from 2 companies. Oh, how can I not remember this? Anyway, if Clear Lake and Bowley fail to meet their obligations in terms of paying that back, Chelsea get taken over. Yeah. So they are under serious pressure to keep the club ticking so they can keep paying that money off. And that is a hope. And there's a guy called Bobby, Aries Management. Thank you very much. Thank you, Luke. Aries Management. And the interest rates are extortionate, very, very high. So we're in a situation now where we're under pressure to raise cash flow so we can pay off that investment. Charlie, I know you've got to go very shortly, so we're going to wrap up in a second. Nina, just respond to this, and then we'll go from there. Press the like button as well, guys.
But this is the thing that like people kept saying, like you have to win stuff and you have to win major honors in order to to win money, to gain money, right? To make money, you have to win things, right? Like this is what we kept saying. If you want your players to be sold for a profit and sold for a higher value, go and win trophies with them, right? So it's like we wanted to believe that it's not just about the money. Obviously they want to make money, but they want to also win stuff, right? We want to be challenging and competing for silverware and for the major honors that we've won in the past, right? So it doesn't make sense they don't want to win, but it's the approach. Like Charlie said earlier, they want to win with a model that's never been successful before in this capacity and in this way. And I think that's what they're so headstrong on. But it is a model strategy. At the end of the day, I don't think they quite believe in what they're doing anymore. And I don't think that they believe any longer that they can win major honours with this model and with this way. And that is one part reason that fans want to speak out about it, because they want the model to change. And it does need to in order to be successful. And, you know, at the start, we were talking about signing lots of inexperienced players. I think it's so much more than that now. It's about signing players that just aren't quite good enough as well. You know, you look at the some of the players that we've signed. Do we upgrade from one window to the previous? Probably not. A lot of fans will argue that it doesn't really. So it's just so many decisions. And then you talk about, of course, the questions are higher above, because how are we trusting anyone to make the next managerial appointment? If we keep sacking them, how are you supposed to ask your fans to believe in what you're doing here when all of your decisions just end up backfiring and you're back at square one, like trying to scramble for a new decision? Do you know what I mean? And it's like you've lost the fans a long time ago now. I think this is probably the first time where all of the fans are on absolutely the same page with what's going on here. So it's almost been a gradual thing, but the signs were there to start with. They've been there from the very start. We've just now seen another example, another demonstration, another piece of evidence that just confirms what we've known these whole last few years. Can't believe it's nearly 4 years, by the way.
Yeah,
because we've had this conversation far too many times.
It's crazy. Charlie, I know you've got to go, mate. Thanks so much for coming on.
All good, mate. No problem.
Always a pleasure. Go and check out Charlie if you haven't already. Nina, we'll just respond to this last question, then we'll wrap it up as well. Full-time Whistle says, fans don't go to the game until we say change. I know Charlie's commented on this. What do you make of it? Because, as I said, I'm a CT. I've already paid. So, I mean, when we're looking at the impact, are you talking about the financial impact, or are you talking about the atmosphere? Like, what are we talking about here?
A combination of both. I think people think that financially they can damage the owners more. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more powerful than damaging them financially. It's more about the attendance and the presence, right? If you speak about how important the fans are, well, show us how important the fans are and how important of a voice we have at the club that we've been at way before you arrived, by the way. A club we know so much better than you do, by the way. A club that unfortunately we don't get to pour billions in ourselves, or millions rather, but we're still absolutely there, and we turn up and we watch the club and we want the club to do well and the team to do well. So I think there is quite something powerful about the non-attendance of the actual fan base, right? But it's something that needs to get put together in a very, very good way. You know, all of us, right? Not just 2,000 fans not turning up or 5,000 fans, all of the home fans. And that's something that we can try and aspire. And Alex, me and you, we go to games and we see that, unfortunately, it's hurtful to say, but the atmosphere has been horrific at Stamford Bridge. It's something I've spoken about for the longest time. It's something that really saddens me as a matchday going fan. But, you know, there's only so much noise that I can make, right? I will participate in every single chant we start. I will sing, I will cheer. But there's only so much you can do when it's not reciprocated by the whole stadium, when you've got people that are literally scrolling through Instagram halfway through the game. You've got people taking selfies. I have no issues with that whatsoever. Okay, I'm all for it's an experience. I know, and I'm always very grateful that we get to go to games. I'm well aware that so many people dream of going to Stamford Bridge and watching football games. So I'm fine with you coming and doing that, but it's about the atmosphere, and it's about turning up the club, and it's been really, really, really poor and lackluster. So maybe go the extra step and just empty it all out. But again, it's a very difficult thing to achieve, Alex, because there's so many fans out there that will sell a limb to be there if we're not. Do you know what I mean? And there still will be those fans at the end of the day, because as united as we are in this perspective right now, there are still so many Chelsea fans out there who would, they'd bite your hand off to go and sit in your seat at the next game if you're not there. So I think there's a way that you can achieve that. But probably is. It's very difficult. But then there's no point.
You just need to have people on the same page, right? You need to have people on the same page.
Exactly. But there is something very powerful about attendance, right? It's literally all that matters. If you're talking about potentially building a new stadium at some point, you've got to think, you're planning on filling that stadium out. If you've got Stamford Bridge empty at some point. But yeah, it's a very sad thing, because we saw, Alex, that because me and you, we've been around, right, in the worst season 22-23, when we hit arguably the lowest of lows we felt as a club in a very long time. We were still there, right? But there were a lot of people that sold their tickets. I've spoken to a lot of people who I have a lot of people in my community on my YouTube channel who are a lot older and sort of, been supporting the club for 60 plus years and have really, really been around. A lot of them have told me, we don't go anymore, or we've stopped going as a family, or since the takeover things have turned really sour for us, so we just don't go anymore, or do you know what I mean, that sort of thing. And it is really becoming a thing that the fans are just falling out of love with what Chelsea represents and stands for. And maybe, I said we're sentimental about our old Chelsea, but this is the thing we have to wrap our heads around. They wanted to strip everything from the old Chelsea. Do we really believe that they're here to keep Chelsea what it was, or replicate the success and the glory days that we had, the history that we've had and some of the things that we've experienced as a club? That's not really their interest anymore. They're here to make something of their own, and they're doing that. And it's just really far away from anything that we want for our club as fans. But this is what they're doing, right?
Yeah, no, I think you've said it very well. I mean, me personally, I think that if you're able to, as a collective, make something happen, then I think you do it. It doesn't even have to be the whole stadium either. If you look at Strasbourg, the ultras, they stay quiet for about, I think it's 25 minutes at the beginning of each game. I watched the Palace game and I saw it. First of all, I was thinking, why is the atmosphere a bit weird? It's quiet, and Strasbourg are known for their atmosphere. And then after 25 minutes, they just started bouncing, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. But I mean, it sends a very clear message, we don't support this, we don't want BlueCo out, posters and signs, throughout the segments of the ground. Now in France, I know they're more extreme than we are in England. I also know the security is not as tight, so it's easier to get away with these things because everyone's doing it. In England, unfortunately, people are a little bit scared of the repercussions of getting banned and things like that. So that's why I think you struggle. And also you have more tourists out here, so you have a lot of people who don't get it.
Many.
I would say, Nina, if you're going to make anything happen, you do it in Shed and Matthew Harding, and you leave the East and the West. There's no point even trying in those stands. There's no point, because you're not getting atmosphere anyway. Those people who pay a lot of money, that they're coming for the experience, that they're not coming every week. There are obviously season tickets.
And also you just have to look at how many, I know obviously this is a marketing thing, and the club obviously is interested in generating revenue from elsewhere, but you look at the marketing of how they sort of advertise some of the matchday experiences, right? It's not like a matchday experience where, you're there to watch the game and you're there because you're watching the football. It's all about what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, how you're going to, what photos you're going to take there, or who you might meet, or blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? And it's that's how it's advertised, and it appeals to a lot of people. I have no problem with the people that go for that experience, but let's not forget that that is still taking away from what we're trying to do there as the match day going fans, and how invested we are in the football, and what we envision, and it's working. And Alex is not going to stop working, right? Because there will always be that audience there for those experiences, right? And unfortunately, it's like how there's a lot of villains you're up against here in terms of what we're trying to achieve here as fans and what we're up against. But again, there's no point in saying it's not going to do anything or it's not going to work. That's just not really a healthy way to view things, right? There's always something you can do. There's always something you can say.
Yeah, no, I think you said it very well. Listen, big up to all of you. Really appreciate everyone that's tuned in. If you haven't smashed the like button, it does help. And you know, if we see people are enjoying it, then we'll keep running the show as a live, because 3 Points Perspective generally is a pre-recorded show. So if we can get at least like 50%, get us to 250 likes, and that would be fantastic. If we can get over that, even better. Obviously, myself and Nina will be at the at the next home game. I don't know if you're going to be going to Fulham or Charlton.
No, I'll be at the home game.
Do you want a ticket for City? I can help you. Yeah. Are you going or not?
No, but I'll be watching what we do for Chelsea. Like, is it just me, Alex? But it doesn't feel like we are ready to even play football on the pitch right now. I feel like there's so much going on. We're so distracted with elsewhere that it's not even crossed my mind today that we're playing Manchester City tomorrow. Like, I'm literally like, that world just, oh yeah, we have to still play football with everything that's going on. We still have to turn up to the Etihad and try and play a game of football against Man City. It's
the amount of times we've gone to City and I haven't felt confident, and we looked like we were pushing at times. You know, I remember. You talk about standards however you want. We always struggle at City. Like, I remember when we got a draw under Poch, and I was like, thank God we got something. You know, we lost with Tuchel. We got smashed with Potter. Like last season, 4-0, and then we lost like 2-0. It was all in the space of a week. It was horrendous. And then obviously last season, Sanchez making those stupid mistakes. So like that was in my opinion, at least a Chelsea that looked like we at the time, apart from Potter's season, were trying to get somewhere, even under Poch. Like, we were trying to get from 12th to 6th, which is upwards, however you want to describe it. And now we just look like we've plateaued and we've peaked, and we're the only way is down. And this would have been a winnable game, Nina. This would have been a winnable game.
What's your actual prediction, though? What do you think is going to happen? Should we do a quick preview of the City game? What's everyone thinking? Let us know in the chat, guys. Is it going to be a horror movie tomorrow, or do we actually have some hope and think we're going to turn up against City?
What is hope?
What is hope?
What is hope?
New year, new hope.
Jamie said to me, was like, there's got to be hope at the end of the tunnel. What? Light at the end of the tunnel. Light? What are you talking about? Light? Are you kidding me, man?
Coming versus City, someone says.
There's no light. There's no light. Chelsea is a dark play. We're a dark blue. If we could make our shirts grey or black from now on, honestly, like, this is tough times. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, what's your prediction, Nina? I don't have a prediction.
You know what? I always feel so hopeful, no matter how poor our form is and how bad results have been. I always feel so, you know, you just get that extra little like energy before match day, and you're like, oh, come on, you know, we could do something. There's none of that, Alex. Right now, I feel like I'm rock bottom, and I'm just like, please, can it just not be really ugly? Because I don't want to feel even worse after that. But I don't know what to expect. I think we will be quite deflated, all of that. And I know that I keep forgetting his name, Callum McFarlane, is that the under 21s coach? He's going to be coaching us. He is just, yeah, bless him. I feel bad for him, but he's got a lot to do in terms of motivating the players. And I don't know, it's going to be like for Reece James, at least, you know, this for him is like, yep, new year, same thing. I know what I'm doing here. I have to pick up this group of players here because I've seen all the managers in the past leave. This is not a new radio for me. I'm going to have to motivate all my teammates. But yeah, I have no optimism in me right now. I have to be truthfully honest with you, Alex. So we'll have to see what happens.
Hey, big up to you, Nina. Thanks for coming on. If you guys enjoyed the show as well, then smash the like button. Check out Nina's channel as well. Nina's Chelsea Corner. Subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV if you enjoy this show. We're going to have many more of these as well. Nothing like a morning stream. Way to start off the weekend. This is my last week off, Nina, and then I'm working basically every day. So
get on the grind, mate. 2026. It's all about the grind.
Yeah, there you go. But I think the hardest grind is going to be, honestly, like at this point, Nina, I'm like,
we've been there before, Alex. We've survived. We're going to come out on the other side.
I was like having chats with people. I was like, why do I keep following these guys? It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It's what I do. It's what I've done since I was 16, 17. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, we'll be there. We will be there. Big up to all of you. Really appreciate everyone watching. And enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah, take care and happy New Year, everyone.